Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lottie and today I'm going to be rating and slating the different covers of some of my favourite books. So yes, this is yet another UK versus US cover battle on YouTube. I feel like everybody does these days, but they're fun to do and I like dissing book covers, so let's get on with it. I've got a bunch of different books to talk about here today. Most of them are books I have really enjoyed or loved, or they are my favourite books. And I've thrown a couple in there that I haven't actually read yet, but I anticipate loving. So I'm cheating a little bit, but they can still count. These aren't going to be in any particular order, but I just want to talk about some of these covers, I guess. So I'm going to kick things off by talking about my absolute favourite book of all time. Well, technically favourite series because my favourite book is the final book in the series. I only read this back in February, but I absolutely fucking loved it. And that is Nevernight by Jay Kristoff. Obviously, I am from the UK, so I might be biased in these covers and prefer the UK editions. That is definitely the case with Nevernight. So here I've got the US cover and also the UK hardcover. The paperback is actually a little different. It doesn't have the like red sun on the cover, instead I think it's on the spine, but I do actually prefer the hardcover to the paperback of the UK because it has the sun on it, and then each of the books in the series feature the three suns of the planet that Nevernight takes place on. So with the US cover, obviously we've got Mia on the front holding her dagger with her mask on that she wears, and then also you've got the shadowy wings coming out because Mia, the main character, her nickname is like Little Crow, so I guess that's what that represents, even though the creature that lives in her shadow is actually a shadow cat. Which I think might have made a little bit more sense if we had a little inkling of Mr. Kindly on the cover there. I like the illustration, I think it looks nice. I don't like the font. There's something about it that just reads cheesy young adult to me, even though this is definitely not a young adult book. I just think the whole cover itself looks more young adult than adult. It's not juvenile, I just think it's not, I don't know what it is about it. There's just something that doesn't scream adult fantasy to me. With the UK cover, I've obviously already mentioned the sun, but the fonts I really like. I really like the font of the Nevernight title because I think it looks a lot more mature, but I feel like the title itself is not as present on the cover as much as the US. If you were looking at this, it might take you a little while to figure out what the name of the book actually is. I love the crow on the front. I'm guessing that represents Mia, but what I really love about this illustration is that it has so many little hidden things in it. So if you zoom into the middle of the crow, you can see there is actually a shadow cat, which is Mr. Kindly in there. There's a barrel, there's a hand, there's a sword, a bottle I think, and a key. There's loads of things in there that are obviously representing different things that happen in the story, and I like that it makes more sense once you've read the book itself, whereas I feel like the US cover is very sort of one tone. There's not really much in it that hints to what happens in the book. Basically just Mia holding a bloody dagger, which I suppose is what happens throughout the series. I feel like the shadowy figure, her shadow with the wings, can be a little bit misleading, though thinking about it, I guess it could be alluding to something that we learn later on in the series. But at the same time, I just feel like it's suggesting Mia might be some sort of angel of death, which is not what the series is about. So if I was to choose my favourite, I'd have to say that the UK cover is my preference for Nevernight. Now we are completely changing tone, and the next book I'm going to talk about is The Kiss Quotient by Helen Hoang. This is my favourite romance series of all time, and I'm really sad that I'm not going to have the chance to read the last book yet. There were these signed editions I really wanted to get from the US, but sadly the store that sold them doesn't ship to the UK. So I'm just going to wait a little while to pick up the final book and buy them all as a collection. But here we've got the US cover and also the original UK cover. I think they've changed the UK cover to match the US now because the rest of the books in the series all match. I don't think they published The Bride Test with the same sort of covers as the original Kiss Quotient in the UK. So this is the original UK cover, but I think it has been changed now. So let's talk about the US cover. I like this because I love little illustrations on romance. I think they are just so cute and friendly. I think about romance is I think you want it to feel warm and welcoming, I guess. And that's what I like about illustrations on romance books. So I like the illustration of Stella and what is his name? And the love interest, whose name I cannot remember because it's been about 12 months since I read these books. What I like about this cover it has the little mathematical symbol that Stella is standing on. I can't remember the name of that, sorry. I'm not good with maths. And then also in the background there is illustrations of different math symbols and equations and things, which is obviously to do with the title, which is the Kiss Quotient, and also Stella works in some kind of thing where she does a lot with numbers. So I really like that hints at Stella's personality and her background. She is basically a workaholic, so I really like that we have that in the cover itself. And I also really like the font on the front. I love the yellow with the blue. I love handwritten calligraphy type fonts, so I think that looks really cute. I just think this is overall a really appealing cover. And then we look at the UK cover. I'm sorry, I hate this. I just think it doesn't really tell me anything of what it's about. I don't understand the heart made of rose petals on the cover. If I remember correctly, there's nothing to do with that in the story itself. I don't like the way the font is sort of transparent in parts and then not in others. On the top that says she wanted to learn how to be seductive, he taught her so much more. So I like that that's in there because it sort of gives you a hint as to what the story itself is about. I feel like it only just scratches the surface of Stella's journey throughout the book. I don't like the purple. I feel like this is very dark. The story is very light and happy and airy, and this just does not give me those vibes. So I would probably say that the US cover is my preference on this one. So Clap and You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. I love both of these covers. They're obviously very, very similar concepts. And I like that they went with a concept and ran with it for both of the UK and the US editions. There isn't really much difference in these other than, I guess, the illustration style. So on the US it's very much more comic booky, I suppose. I'm not really sure about terms in terms of artistry. This looks very much more like hand drawn, and I like that in the backgrounds of the two girls you've got New York and then also what I guess would be the Dominican, and you've got the airplanes as well in the middle. I really like that, separating them, and obviously their faces basically match up on the inside. You can see their differences there. I feel like they definitely feel more connected by their faces matching up on the inside of the illustration rather than on the outside, which is obviously what we see on the UK cover. The UK cover, I prefer the illustration on this cover. Just, I don't know, I guess it feels a little bit more realistic. It looks more like it's digitally drawn. I think both illustrations are beautiful. There is just something more about the illustration of the girls on the UK cover that appeals to me more. Obviously their faces are more symmetrical in the sense that you see exactly half of their face, whereas on the UK cover you obviously see the whole of their lips, for example, and it's not as matched up. But I guess you can see that they have a height difference, for example, on the US cover, whereas in the UK cover they almost look like they've been copied and pasted with a little few things changed about them. I feel like on the UK cover you can't really see if the two girls might have a connection with each other or a relationship with each other, I suppose, whereas something about them being connected on the inside illustration on the US makes me feel like they have a connection, whereas the UK feels a little bit more separated. I like the font on the UK cover more, and I like the little aeroplane in the A, but I do prefer the aeroplanes being more present on the US cover because what happens on a plane is really kind of important to what sets off the whole of the story. I kind of wish that the UK cover had the backgrounds we see on the US cover for the girls, because with it just the two-tone colours, like you don't really get a sense of that fact that they are from completely different countries, whereas I feel like you get that more in the US cover. I really like both of these, and there's things I like and dislike about both of them, but I think, oh, I don't know, I definitely prefer the illustration on the UK cover, but I think the US one takes the win for me. So with Throne of Glass, these are obviously very, very similar covers. There isn't a lot that is different about them. You've obviously got the same illustration of Selena on the front, and I'm assuming it would be the same with the illustration that's on the back as well. But with the UK ones, it's obviously a white paperback, and you've got red text for I think that's the tagline, and also with Sarah J Maas's name. And then on the US, it's all very much the same colour, and you've got a different font as well going on there for the title of the book. And also the background is obviously a lot darker. So I don't like the font on the US cover. I've got the same vibes that I get from the Nevernight font. It must be something about US books in general, fantasy books in general. I guess that must appeal to a US audience more, but I definitely prefer the font on the UK cover. I just think it looks classier, I guess. And I like that the of is more cursive, the throne and the glass. I don't like the T and the E being really big on the US one. It just looks wrong to me. I don't understand why they're so much bigger, whereas like on the UK obviously it's all the same size. And I don't know, I just feel like the UK one looks classier. I don't like that Sarah J Maas's name is so big on the US one right at the top, but at the same time it is really small on the UK one and almost hidden away. I think that I prefer the UK cover for Throne of Glass. It just looks nicer and classier and more clean in my opinion. So yeah, this is one of the books that I haven't read yet, but I'm hoping to be reading it very soon, and that is obviously Malice by Heather Walter. This came out earlier this year. It's a Sleeping Beauty retelling from the perspective of, I think her name is Alice, who's like a Maleficent type character. UK cover, I really like that it's an illustration of the main character. I think it looks dark and brooding, and I like that it's very clear that it's like once upon a time there was a villain. We know we're going into like a villain story. I think it looks very gothic. I love the font for Malice. I just think it looks really shiny and classy, and I like the green because obviously that is alluding to Maleficent, who in the original cartoon she's got green skin, and obviously like the magic that she does is like all green smoke and stuff. I definitely am drawn to the UK cover, especially as someone like who loves Maleficent as a concept. I'm really drawn to this cover. I think it looks really cool and I'm like, oh, I want to pick that up. The US cover I just think looks really lame and a little bit pathetic. I don't know, there's just nothing about it that appeals to me. I don't like the title of the book being vertical. The font isn't too bad, but I feel like it looks a little bit strange because it's vertical. And I don't like the hands at the side. At first I thought she was just holding a rose, and then like she had these weird cuff sleeves, but I actually think the weird cuff lace things are actually thorns from the rose. I like that both of the covers keep the same theme of like the very dark blue. Something about the US, it just looks really like washed out almost, and I feel like it makes the book look old, like it was published quite a long time ago. I think it's quite an old-fashioned cover, and the rose itself as well doesn't make much sense to me. I associate a rose more with Beauty and the Beast because obviously there was the rose in the glass jar and everything, but I suppose that like Aurora is called Briar Rose as well in Sleeping Beauty, so I suppose that could be where it like ties in. But yeah, straight off I much prefer the UK cover of Malice. Alright, and so another book that I haven't read yet because it's not out yet but is on my September TBR, and I might already be reading it by the time you see this video. That is Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff. I'm super hyped for this book. Both of the covers have things that appeal to me. Obviously I can't really talk about things that it alludes to in the story because I haven't read it yet and I don't really know the main premise of it other than it's about this dude. So with the US cover, I like the weird red stuff going on in the background. Obviously we can see like different shapes, so maybe that's something to do with the main character's powers and him being like in the middle, I just feel like it makes him look really small. I feel like he could be a bigger presence than he is on the cover. And obviously, like, we don't know a lot about the main character Gabriel yet. Pretty much all the illustrations I've seen of him, he does not have a shirt on. And I don't know, I just don't like shirtless dudes being on covers. It feels like a, you know, a cheesy romance to me, with him just being on the cover like that. Maybe Jay Kristoff, like the artist and that, were all playing on the idea of that, taking the piss out of it, I don't know. The illustration of Gabriel in the middle, I don't like it. I think it looks just so out of place and small. I don't know, there's just, yeah, it does really remind me of Nevernight as well, with the main character being illustrated on the cover. And the font as well gives me the same vibes, but I don't like the font. I think I've got the same problem with this cover as I did with Malice. I think it looks really old-fashioned, and like an old-fashioned book published quite a long time ago, and not the sort of vibes you get from books that are published in 2021 and the 2020s in general. With the UK cover, I'm all over this. I think it looks classy. Obviously there is quite a lot going on, but I quite like that, because I think once I've read the book and I understand all these different symbols and illustrations and things that are on there, it will make a lot more sense to me and I'll appreciate it a lot more. I love the font, I like the symbolism that's on there, I like that it looks like a coat of arms, and I like the colour palette. I know obviously they've got quite similar colour palettes. This makes me think more vampires, dark, vampiric, whereas the red on the US cover is a little bit brighter and more fire truck red rather than like crimson. So I'm sorry, but the UK cover definitely takes the cake for me. So now there's a book that I've read very recently, and that is Cinderella is Dead by Kalynn Bayron. These covers are really similar, and you can tell that they went with a concept and ran with it. Obviously got the main character Sophia on both covers, just in very different environments, I suppose. So on the US cover, she looks a lot more polished, and maybe this is just after she's left the ball and just as she's going into the woods. Whereas on the UK cover, she's a little bit more beat up, she's got blood on her dress, she's got some cuts on her face, so maybe this is after she's been running through the woods. I like the illustration on the UK cover a lot. It's the style that I really vibe with, and I think it tells a better story than the US cover does. I really like that she looks like she's almost looking down on you with the wind blowing in her hair, and she looks like a badass, I think, in the UK cover. Like, she looks like she's about to, I don't know, beat down on you, whatever, I don't know. She looks like a badass. In the US cover, I still think she looks like a badass, but I'm not getting the same sort of personality from the illustration as I do in the UK cover. I think she just looks a little bit too neat and tidy for what happens in the story. I also don't like this illustration style as much as I do with the UK one. And although I quite like you getting to see the forest in the background, because a lot of the book does take place in a forest, I feel like it's a little bit overpowering and there's a little bit too much going on in the illustration. Whereas in the UK one, it's obviously like a misty background. And I like the consistent blue we have as well in the UK one. Although Cinderella's dress in the Disney film is white, everyone seems to associate Cinderella with the colour blue, and I actually think Disney updated her, like, Disney princess illustration to make her dress blue, and I really like that we have that in both of the dresses, but you see a lot more in the UK cover than in the US. The fonts of the title also quite similar, but I do prefer the UK one. I also like that it's gold. It just feels a little bit more regal to me than the plain white in the US cover. And I like that Kalynn Bayron's name is a little bit bigger on the UK one than in the US one, just because this is her debut novel, I think. I like that it highlights her name a little bit more. So the winner for me is definitely the UK cover. So where we stand, the UK has definitely already won on my favourite covers. But I do have one more book to talk about, which actually has 3 different covers for 3 different countries. So with Unearthly, the vibes of all of the covers I've seen for it are very early 10s. They definitely scream like 2009 to 2012 young adult literature. So I really love the US cover. I love that each of the books has a different colour scheme. So this one is purple, and also on the hardcover it has like a shiny dust jacket. I like the font, it feels very regal, and I love the little feather in there because this book is about angels. And I'm assuming the main character on the front is supposed to be Clara, who is the main character, though nothing about the photograph really screams anything that happens in the book for me. It has been a really long time since I read this series, so I can't remember exactly what happens, but I'm not really getting anything from the picture that reminds me of what happens in the book. Obviously you can see trees in the background. I think there is a scene at the beginning of the book, like right in the prologue, or maybe like later on as well. It like happens in a woods. And you also see this in the UK cover as well. So obviously with the UK cover you can see that there's a girl walking through the woods in like this white dress with white hair, and I'm assuming again that is meant to be Clara. Clara, as far as I remember, doesn't look anything like that. And also I don't remember her walking through the woods in like a white outfit, like a ghost almost. I feel like the UK cover feels more like it could be about a ghost story. Nothing about it really makes me think about angels. There's a quote on the bottom from Rochelle Mead. I did think it might be a tagline, but it wasn't. So again, it doesn't really tell me anything about it being about angels, other than I guess the white throughout there could make you think about angels, but that makes me think more ghosts. So while I prefer the US cover, my favourite is actually probably the Australian cover. I just love the colour palette of the Australian cover. I think Clara has red hair, so you can definitely tell that this is supposed to be Clara in this photograph. It still has the woods from the UK cover, which I like that it brought that in there because they're a little bit more present. And there is something that happens in the prologue, I think, that is really significant to it being with the woods in the cover. I don't particularly like the font. I definitely prefer the font on the US cover, but the font is weird. I don't like that it looks like it's when you type like one uppercase and one lowercase. I think that looks just bizarre. But I really love the dress that's in this, so maybe there is a scene where she's walking through the woods in like a ball gown or something, because that is something that is really consistent through all of the covers. I think it's really the colour palette on the Australian cover that is doing it for me, so Australia wins a point on this one. So that is all of my thoughts on these different covers. I guess I'm just really drawn to the UK covers that we see in a lot of different books, and maybe I'm biased because I am from the UK, but a lot of books that I see, I just prefer the UK covers in general, and it's only ever the odd book that I prefer the US cover. That's like really difficult to get in this country for some reason. Yeah, let me know down in the comments below which covers that you preferred for each of these books. That is it from me today, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, and I will see you very soon with a new one. Goodbye.